Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning into my podcast. My name is Grayson B, and I'm an ISU ASED Fellow. I hail from the small community of Waupaca, Wisconsin, which is a small town in rural central eastern Wisconsin. I received a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh with a double major in political science and international development. I'm an Applied Community and Economic Development Fellow at ISU, and I'm in the Department of Politics and Government. Having gone to public schools in Wisconsin and public universities in both Wisconsin and Illinois, I am undoubtedly a public school kid, which most definitely shaped my national service trajectory. Prior to coming to the Stevenson Center, I served 2 terms of service with the AmeriCorps. My first term of service was serving part-time with Vet Corps in Oshkosh, which is a program that puts folks in Lighted Schoolhouse, which is an after-school program which serves low-income elementary children in 21st century CLCs, or community learning centers. So after working with low-income youth, I became passionate about the intersectionality of issues related to public education, poverty, upward mobility, and economic opportunity. After being inspired by my part-time service work in Oshkosh, I chose to apply to be a full-time City Year AmeriCorps member in City Year Milwaukee's 2016-2017 cohort. Some family and coworkers were reluctant of my decision to dedicate a year of my time to serving others, but my time in City Year Milwaukee was a pivotal time for my personal, professional, and emotional development, and I could not be more grateful for following my own heart. The most rewarding aspect of City Year Milwaukee was working with at-risk youth and seeing yourself make a tangible impact in their lives. Whether it was youth who benefited from your one-on-one conversation or youth who improved their literacy or math skills, the difficulty in tutoring and mentoring was worthwhile once you saw their progress. Having young people connect with you and believe in you as a role model is an untouchably meaningful experience, especially when you and the students you work with are from different racial backgrounds. One of the moments that makes me the proudest was seeing a girl I tutored go from just below grade level in math to being one of the most advanced students in her algebra class in a few short months. It was through my encouragement, our tutoring sessions, and her hard work that she thrived. That is the sort of thing you seek when you join City Year. Although my year with City Milwaukee was overwhelmingly positive, the good work I did in Milwaukee does not go without sadness and frustration. After I left City Year, I was working for another Milwaukee nonprofit. I received a call from one of my teammates from City Year. She called and told me that Joseph, one of the students I mentored, had been shot and killed in Chicago the day prior. I was absolutely shaken. I looked up the news, and sure enough, my mentee Joseph was murdered after returning to Chicago from Milwaukee. This hit me hard. I knew his mother, his brother. We had conversations every day he came to school. It broke my heart to have poured so much into him for him to die in such a horrific way. I remember my mind flashing to the day Joseph received the best score in the grade on Achieve 3000, which is the computer literacy program. He was so proud, he was beaming when he told me. His teacher said, "Come on, Joseph, you're late to class." And he looked at his teacher and said, "Hold up 1 minute, I'm talking to my mentor." This made me break down and cry that day, because prior to that moment, he had not ever called me his mentor or been super vocal about sharing his triumphs. But I also remembered, and I realized I would never let Joseph die in vain. I chose that day to continue to dedicate my life and my time toward the cause of youth development, poverty alleviation, and enhancing opportunities for youth just like Joseph. I learned a lot through my year with City Year Milwaukee. I dedicated so much of my time and effort to the youth at James Madison Academic Campus that it flew by much faster than I anticipated. I came into City Year with passion and drive, and left City Year with passion and drive, and some skills to do something about it. Although losing Joseph was hard and I took it somewhat personally for a while, I had to remind myself that the forces of poverty, racism, and inequality are much bigger than me or my efforts. I may have been doing important work in a school that may have needed extra mentors and role models, but I was one person on one team in one city, doing my best to fight the same social ills that took Joseph's life. There are thousands of stories just like Joseph's, of youth who senselessly lose their lives to gun violence in America's poor communities, most of them black and brown. Meeting and mentoring Joseph gave me an intimate understanding of the problems I read about in college and I wanted to have an impact on after college. I learned that if I wanted to see change in communities, I needed to immerse myself in them. I learned that if I wanted to see progress, I had to show up every day to make that a reality. I learned that when you fight for socioeconomic justice, you are exposed to and affected by the forces you battle, which makes the work all the more meaningful. After City Year, I was honored to receive a job working with Havenwood's Economic Development Corporation, which is a small nonprofit on Milwaukee's far northwest side. I was Havenwood's Youth Employment Program Supervisor. In this role, I led a team of teenagers in the mayor's Earn and Learn Teen Summer Jobs program. We picked up trash, canvassed the neighborhood, and ran a concert series at a community garden. I had the opportunity to create and teach my own workforce development curriculum, which is something that I hold dear to this day. After working at Havenwoods for 3 summers, after the first summer, I worked at United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County fundraising money for their giving campaign, which was also an amazing experience. I met a superb network of influential people in the private, nonprofit, and public sectors. Working at United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County reinforced the notion that collaboration amongst multiple partners is imperative to change. After working at United Way, I worked for the Milwaukee Violence Free Zone as a lead youth advisor at the same school I served at during City Year. It was extraordinary to come back to James Madison Academic Campus and see many of the same youth I tutored and mentored as juniors. In my role at Milwaukee VFZ, I mentored a caseload of 27 students who are at risk of suspension, fighting, or other behaviors that hamper their success. My job was impactful, inspiring, and difficult. I was back in the same school I initially learned the most in, but not much had changed on the systemic level. This frustrated but motivated me into action. It was at this time that I began to study for the GRE and think seriously about applying for grad programs. I had learned firsthand the importance of grassroots, on-the-ground work for 3 years, and I had become a bit burnt out. The work was rewarding, and I would not be here without it. In fact, it was integral as to why I chose to study community development on an academic level, which brings me to my next topic, the Stevenson Center. I found out about Illinois State Stevenson Center through City Year's University Partnership page. The Stevenson Center program intrigued me for a few reasons. For one, the Stevenson Center itself is unique. No programs that I explored had an interdisciplinary approach in which anthropology, sociology, economics, kinesiology and recreation, and political science students explore community and economic development together. That excited me. The second reason that I liked the Stevenson Center was the structure of it. I love the idea of studying theory intensely for an academic year and then applying many of those skills and theories to a professional setting 1 year later. I ultimately decided on Illinois State after weighing graduate school options throughout the country, and I'm incredibly happy I did. When it came to selecting a grad school, the Stevenson Center's ACED Fellowship just made the most sense. The blend of academic skill building and practical application to me was a clear indicator of the program's specialty in creating thoughtful, prepared community developers. How can you practice community development without being in the field? I argue you cannot. Within the ACED Fellowship, I am in the Department of Politics and Government. The department's faculty, staff, and students are all fantastic people. I especially enjoyed Dr. Shawey's class in International Relations, but I even enjoyed my study abroad to Costa Rica even more. We had an opportunity to study fair trade agriculture there through Illinois State's study abroad programs, and it was exquisite. The study abroad was probably my favorite, but within the ACED sequence, I'd say my 2 favorites were seminar in community development and community project design and management. Dr. Michael Hendricks teaches seminar in community development, and I enjoyed his approach. He is laid back, cool, and a returned Peace Corps volunteer, but his high expectations pushed me to write, read, and learn more than I had in recent years. He's also my mentor and my capstone advisor, and I'm extremely grateful I got to meet him. I also loved community project design and management with Dr. Frank Beck of the sociology department. In that class, we got to produce real-world research for real-world clients. I was on the team that was helping Autism McLean, which is an advocacy organization for families of children with autism spectrum disorder. We produced a housing study that analyzed the availability of autism-friendly housing in McLean County. We found that many barriers exist for folks with ASD, and that more community development must be geared toward facilitating the success of folks with intellectual and mental disabilities. I will not lie, taking 4 graduate classes a semester is hard. Then you take 2 summer courses, which are also challenging. Essentially, you fit almost 2 years of coursework into 1 year as an ACED fellow. So this program is not for the lighthearted, but it can be accomplished because you are surrounded by supportive faculty, the cohort, and the Illinois State staff who care about your success and your future. Beverly Byer, Katie Hake, and Dawn Du Bois are all supportive, awesome people who run the program well. I'm a stronger, more capable person having gone through this program than if I had not, and I appreciate all those who make it happen. When it comes to the cohort, those are your people. Our cohort would grab lunch together, get drinks after class, and we even had like a Friendsgiving and a Christmas party too. I always had good times with the cohort. They're your support system. They're your friends. They're your learning pod. Lean on them. Thinking about the cohort makes me think of all the fun we had in Bloomington Normal. Bloomington Normal is a cool community. Uptown Normal has some good food. Mostly Firehouse Pizza and the Coffee House are my two favorites. I loved the bars near Uptown because they're fun and they have good bar food and it's cheap. ISU's campus is in Normal and it's a beautiful campus. Many of the students live in Normal. Many of us lived in Bloomington, but most of us lived off campus because it's just too loud for grad students on campus. So downtown Bloomington was really cool and has some good nightlife. So definitely check that out if you move here. Bloomington Normal is a safe, fun place to live for grad school. For my professional placement, I am located in the East Bluff Community Center in Peoria, Illinois. Our mission is to foster community engagement and neighborhood stabilization by providing a vibrant place to gather. The neighborhood that we work in, unfortunately, has high levels of gun violence, poverty, and substandard housing, but we still do what we can to be a beacon of hope in this neighborhood. My role at the East Bluff Community Center has been as a community engagement coordinator. In that role, I've completed a neighborhood assessment, strengthened existing and cultivated new agency partnerships, worked on community outreach and marketing activities such as website improvement, special events, and community organizing. The neighborhood assessment was a challenging but fulfilling endeavor. At the end, I spoke with 230 households in the East Bluff, 239 to be exact. The neighborhood assessment was a 3-question survey, and when we asked the first question of what people want out of the community center, the number one response was youth development, youth engagement, or high-quality education. As a youth development practitioner, you can imagine that those results pleased me. Additionally, partnership building has been a meaningful initiative as well because it is central to community development. While at the community center, I've strengthened our relationship with our existing partners such as YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, our food pantry, and our local artists. But we've also reached out to other agencies like Children's Home of Central Illinois, Peoria Corps, Peoria Parks District, and the Peoria Public Schools Foundation in order to bring some of those amazing services to the East Bluff to provide for our residents. In addition to doing the neighborhood assessment, we did amazing events around the holidays helping folks get food, and we've been doing really amazing things at the East Bluff Community Center. My main hope is that the East Bluff Community Center is better when I leave than when I found it. I want to have an impact on the East Bluff Community Center because it's had an impact on me, and I want to match that same energy. My next steps for my placement are continue to build those good partnerships, learn from the data from the neighborhood assessment and apply it to the work I'm doing, and continue to help let my boss let the East Bluff Community Center be the best place it can possibly be for these residents. My research interests are related to what we're doing here, and that's in youth development, community development, poverty alleviation. I'm interested in things like social entrepreneurship, civil society, community and human development, and improving public schools for low-income kids. Because I'm a firm believer in education as a catalyst for economic growth, and I'm passionate about youth development. Working with at-risk youth is near and dear to my heart. So my capstone pertains to community centers as vehicles for youth development and as vehicles for reducing the effects of poverty and youth incarceration. I've always felt a tad out of place in a political science department because sometimes I've thought I think like a sociologist, sometimes I think like an economist, but I guess the interdisciplinary passion is precisely why the Stevenson Center is the perfect graduate experience for me because it matches all those things. After I graduate from ISU, I want to live outside of the Midwest for a while doing impactful work for a community or advocacy organization that advances socioeconomic opportunity, especially for young people. After getting a taste for things outside of my comfort zone, I intend on returning to Wisconsin to begin a nonprofit that serves at-risk youth. After some time doing that, I expect that my itch to run for office will no longer be ignorable, and I will have to run for local office in Wisconsin somewhere. I just want to say it is absolutely wild doing this podcast. I listened to all these student podcasts many times before I officially applied with the Stevenson Center at ISU. Here I am now, becoming the one being listened to rather than doing the listening, and I hope that you also are in my shoes. It is extraordinary because I set my sights on applying here, and now I'm almost done with the program already. My advice for incoming students is to soak up this experience while it is in your life. It is unique, and it will not happen again, so soak it up. The professors, the friends you meet, the opportunities you have, be mindful of their presence before they're just another memory. My second piece of wisdom is to lean on others when you need it. Grad school is hard, and you will need support, so take care of yourself. The last thing I recommend is to not take yourself too seriously. Yes, you are in an exclusive graduate program with a solid reputation, but you are still a young, fun, inspiring person. Do not think that because you're now in graduate school that you cannot take time for friends, family, self-care, and all the things that make you who you are. In fact, those are the things that are going to help you to get through this process. So without much further ado, much love, y'all. Thanks for listening to my podcast. Let us all work toward a world that promotes prosperity and opportunity for all of our fellow citizens. Onward and forward.